On this episode of Project Prometheus. The AI Armada is going to get stronger.
ChatGPT has already built the Vanguard-class battleship to sit at the helm of its fleet. But a fleet is more than just one ship. And today, ChatGPT is going to design the second installment in its fleet and its second ever warship, a destroyer. Before we get into any actual construction, it's important that we go over the specifications for this class of warship. And for those of you following along at home, these are the specifications that your ship has to follow to be eligible for the destroyer class in Project Prometheus. So, the specifications are, first and most importantly, the material cost of the destroyer cannot exceed $75,000. Secondly, the destroyer's weapons must include only simple, cram, APS, or torpedoes. Everything else is prohibited, so that means, we're not going to have any railguns, any lasers. These are intended to be World War II era, like heyday of battleship type ships. This destroyer class ship should be designed to operate in numbers, and it must have a place for the player or a captain to reside. So essentially, it must have a bridge. But beyond these specifications, what your destroyer looks like is entirely up to you, and I encourage people to be very creative with this because I know I will be as well. Now for the moment that you've all been waiting for. We're actually going to ask ChatGPT to design its destroyer. So the first thing that I asked ChatGPT was to give me a general overview of what its destroyer would look like, and it gave me some really interesting specifications. The first thing it did was give it a name. It called it the Hurricane class after originally calling it the Tempest class, which I think is way cooler. It also gave us some interesting overall dimensions, the most important of which is the length of the ship. At 110 meters, this is a pretty large destroyer considering that the battleship that ChatGPT built is 250 meters long. It's slightly more than 2 times the length of a destroyer. Additionally, ChatGPT told us that similar to its battleship, its destroyer was going to be slightly anemic and was only going to have 2 5-inch guns as its main armament. Its secondary armament would consist mainly of anti-air guns, as ChatGPT saw this destroyer serving sort of an anti-air support role. And in addition to that, it would carry a large battery of torpedoes. ChatGPT specified 4 torpedoes per side in 2 bays on either side of the ship. ChatGPT also specified that the armor scheme for its destroyer was to be moderate, with an emphasis on the destroyer being a fast ship. Overall, this is an interesting set of specifications. Personally, I think, as with the battleship, the choice of main armament and armament in general is more than a little bit insufficient, but these ships are primarily supposed to fulfill the role of kind of a guerrilla attack and, I guess whatever role ChatGPT wants it to fulfill. So taking these specifications, I hopped over into From the Depths and I got straight into the building. During the building phase for the Hurricane, I began by first laying down lightweight alloy beams in all the major dimensions that ChatGPT specified. I then referenced the aesthetic description that ChatGPT gave us of its hull and used that to design the hull of the Hurricane. I don't really know what happened with the front end of the Hurricane. I made a really strange looking bow that I'm probably going to revise at some point in the future. But some important features to call out here. First of all, the main armament, which consists of 2 5-inch guns. I gave ChatGPT sort of the benefit of the doubt here and ended up giving it 2 of the casemated guns, which are actually 5.9 inch, and I put one of them in the front as ChatGPT specified, and I put a second one in the rear of the ship, also as ChatGPT specified. Throughout the ship, we have AA guns that are of the 40 and 20 millimeter variety, and these are supposed to fulfill an anti-air role, which won't be fully realized until later in this series. But most importantly, I added torpedoes to this ship. Torpedoes are something that I've never really experimented with before until now. I started by adding just the canned cavitator torpedo to each side, kind of reverse engineering it, and then putting my own torpedo launchers on the sides of the ship. What we end up with is a Hurricane-class destroyer that is interesting looking. One of its most noticeable features is the torpedo tubes that kind of stick out the sides. It's a really unique look. And it's also a very large ship for its role. A destroyer is typically a small, fast ship. But this ship is interesting, as you will see later in this video. During the sea trials phase, the Hurricane exhibited some interesting tendencies. While a destroyer can probably never be expected to be seaworthy, at least being a small destroyer in seas this rough, the Hurricane was able to handle it. The ship did have a tendency to roll somewhat and would even in some cases roll completely over, but somehow was always able to right itself. I will note, however, that during sea trials it became apparent that the Hurricanes were unable to actually move in the direction they had been ordered to move and were simply able to stay afloat. Again, considering the size of the craft, I'm going to consider this a pass with flying colors because I do not think that I could design a much better ship. And as far as the actual seas will go in most combat scenarios for the Hurricane, the design of the hull should be more than sufficient. However, we did get some pretty entertaining clips of the Hurricane flying over waves and doing backflips from the sea trials. So with sea trials completed successfully, it is time to move on to combat trials. Now, for these specific ships, these are a little bit different than the battleships that we built in terms of their attack pattern. So we're going to try to put them in what I think is like a realistic sort of attack scenario. So we have a fleet, or a little battle group, I guess, of 3 of these ships here. So these are 3 of the Hurricane class destroyers. As you can see, you've got your casemated gun on the front, you got your little torpedo tubes on the side. We are going to take this fleet, and I'm going to spawn all the way over here an Iron Maiden, which is kind of like a cruiser sort of type ship. So we're going to spawn that. We're going to see, are these destroyers capable of hunting down and destroying that cruiser? So without further ado, I've got my fleet selected here. It looks
engaging
like
now.
Engaged. Okay, here comes our first torpedo volley. This is a critical test for this ship, or these ships, I guess, because they should easily be able to destroy this cruiser, especially because there are 3 of them. Okay, decent first hits on the torpedo, but I'm not seeing too much damage on the Iron Maiden. Okay, here come more. Jeez, that is a lot of torpedoes. Holy cow! Seems to be taking them pretty well so far, which is good news for us. Okay, that hit definitely did some damage. Let's have a little check-in on our ships here. So it looks like they're turning about. No one's taken severe damage yet. That hit was pretty devastating. Also, just would like to put a disclaimer out there. These ships are not in their final form necessarily. They probably will change a little more between now and any kind of final fleet battle. Why are they all turning around?
Engaging now.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, part of the reason we're having these sea trials is to see, what kind of stuff this ship needs to be successful. And what I'm seeing here is that this one has already had its ammunition blown up, and the ship has almost been blown in half. So that's not good. So let's see. For some reason, they have decided to turn away from their target. This one has just torpedoed its friend. Great job, buddy. Here, come on.
Moving now.
Go this way, okay? I know you can do it. So the problem with this particular combat is that the ships are not using their torpedoes because they're not facing their target. Which is bizarre, and I'm sure that there's something about the AI that I can do to optimize that. But you can see that the Iron Maiden here is relatively undamaged. In fact, it's almost completely undamaged.
I'm okay, not a scratch somehow.
That does not bode well. Okay, here comes a volley. Okay, decent damage. There's another volley. You know, I'm really impressed by the effectiveness of torpedoes in this game. They're far more effective than I would expect them to be. Oh, that's a lot of, something just blew up. Oh, yep. And seems to be very few hits. They're far more effective than I would expect them to be. Okay. Not going well for the Hurricane class little battle group over here. Let's see. What do we have going on here? So this one has had its ammo stores blown up. And part of the boiler room. This one appears to be intact. Mostly. However, it has critical damage to the boilers. Okay, and it's just taking a heavy hit to the bow. Oh, and it's torpedoing its buddy. Great job. Okay, so we've uncovered some flaws with this design. Let's see where these torpedoes hit. Okay, decent hit, decent, but not satisfying. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, clearly they're not ready for this test yet. So let's just do a single Hurricane against a Jacob's Treehouse, because anything can beat a Jacob's Treehouse. So yeah, as I was saying, the thing with these type of ships, destroyers like this, right, is that they need to approach their target from the front. Let's see where these torpedoes hit. Oh, devastating. Yeah, so the destroyer needs to approach the target head on. It needs to fire the torpedoes, and then it kind of needs to break off quickly and then come back and approach again, because the primary strength of the Hurricane, wow, that was a good hit. Yeah, the primary strength of the Hurricane is its torpedoes. The AI gave it almost no main armament. I mean, 2 5-inch guns is like nothing, and the AA guns are really only useful for anti-aircraft. So if it's not using its torpedoes, it's not an effective battleship. And in this case, this is done. So this is the behavior I expected. It's come really close to the enemy ship. It's just torpedoing the heck out of it. I mean, look at the kind of damage it's doing to that thing. And you know, so ChatGPT told us to armor these lightly, right? Well, it actually said moderately. So the way that I took that is the actual ship itself has very little exterior armor. The important features are armored, however. Okay, I guess we're going for a ramming attack. Interesting strategy. But it really emphasizes speed over survivability, and I think that's going to be a key part of ChatGPT's fleet. Is these Hurricane class ships are going to be the first people or first ships to engage in any kind of fleet combat. You know, they're probably going to go out ahead of the rest of the force and sort of engage the other combatants. Looks like we're doing a little about face right here. Oh yeah, okay, devastating hits to the Jacob's Treehouse. Anything can beat a Jacob's Treehouse. This is a victory. We destroyed that. Okay, so that's great. So I want to see how these things work in groups again. So I am going to just load up 3 of them. I'm not going to do anything fancy with them. I'm not going to put them in a fleet or anything. I am just going to pit them against what you might argue is their master. We're going to pit them against the Vanguard. Now, there are 3 of them in terms of the cost. The Vanguard is far superior, so we have like 300,000 worth of materials on the right side, and on the left we have about 180,000. But they are destroyers. They have torpedoes. They're kind of specifically suited to this task. So the hope would be that they'll be able to take this ship out. That is a lot of torpedoes. Holy cow. So we'll see how good they are at it. And this is a great example of the lack of survivability. This thing is getting chewed up by the Vanguard. I mean, that ship is completely destroyed. Let's get our act together here, guys. Let's not hit each other. I spawned them a little close together this time. Let's get a good look at a torpedo volley. There we go. Got some torpedoes coming in. We'll get under the belt line here. Here they come. Good hits all along the armor. I'm also going to be tweaking the torpedo guidance because, you know, it's only fair to give ChatGPT torpedoes that actually work well, and these are literally the most basic system that I could have possibly thought of. Those are pretty good hits. It seems like 2 out of the 3 are disabled. Are you still operable? Let's see. Yeah. Okay, you're just confused. Yeah, okay. Not sure what's going on. This one is doing its job excellently. It's giving chase. And it appears to... Oh, it's taken out the rear battery. Awesome. Okay, let's see these torpedoes. Here they come. Let's get a good hit in here. Oh, it's so satisfying to watch. So this is exactly how these type of ships are supposed to engage. They're supposed to harass the battleships. And in a group like this, they should be pretty capable of destroying them, at least in my opinion. And you can see the battleship is also capable of tearing the destroyers apart, as it's doing to that destroyer over there. Something big just blew up over there. So, for example, while the battleship is focused on that destroyer, which, let's check this out, because it's been almost completely annihilated, the other destroyer is torpedoing the heck out of this battleship. And I'm pretty happy with how this fight is going. I have to, again, this is on me. The AI is not optimized like it should be, and I will be fixing it. Like this guy, it has power, it can move, it just isn't. It's not turning about to fire its torpedoes, which is very strange. That one is completely destroyed. This guy is giving chase nicely. Oh, and it looks like we've taken out its propulsion systems here. Have we? Yeah. Blew out the steam network for the Vanguard here. So let's see. We've got one destroyer over there, which is seemingly doing nothing. In fact, I am going to order this thing to
returning to formation now.
Move so it can fire its torpedoes. This one is also seemingly breaking off now.
Returning to formation now.
To do that and then
receiving.
Put this back in
Taking
auto
command.
mode.
Receiving.
And put this back
Taking
in auto
command.
mode. And hopefully that breaks them out. So, let's see here. Yeah, so we've this is a total loss. I mean, this ship is destroyed. Let's see. Oh, actually, the fuel is still intact, and the mainframe is too, but the propulsion and weapon systems are completely gone. What? It just... They keep torpedoing each other. That's not very nice. Don't torpedo your friends. Okay, here we go. See, this is the intended behavior. And now we will watch from above and we will get a good view of the torpedo salvo. Or the torpedo wave, I guess. There we go. Torpedoes out. Let's see where they hit the Jebediah. Not the Jebediah, the Vanguard. Good hits. Very good hits. Now you can see, like, the ships have chewed through the Vanguard's armor here. We just took out another turret. Is this one finally re-engaging? No, it's leaving. This behavior confuses me. And now this one, it's either they don't engage and they run away, or they ram. That is the two choices the Hurricane destroyers have when they come into the world. Let's see some torpedoes. Wham bam. Oh, we got it. We got an air torpedo. That's called a missile. Gone for the ramming approach, which makes no sense, given that you were winning the battle. But what is this guy doing? Where are you going? What is your plan? This one is blown up. Yeah. Okay. All right. But I mean, if we look at the Vanguard here, you can see we've taken a pretty big chunk out of it. I don't know what this thing is doing. Let's get all up in its business here. So the mainframe is still intact. The boiler room is busted open, and the material storage is still intact for now. But these torpedoes, if they would actually explode, would be doing a number of them. So the bottom line and the takeaway from this piece of combat is the Hurricane is a capable destroyer. It's a great, like, torpedo sort of attack boat. It can take on surface combatants, especially effective in groups if I can iron the AI out. However, it is an extremely cheap ship. It is very vulnerable to battleship firepower, as we can see here, which that's not necessarily a flaw, it's just part of the design. But overall, I would say ChatGPT designed a pretty formidable ship here. Truthfully, I've never built a destroyer in this game before, and I was expecting a ship that was a little bit smaller, because it's not actually that small. I mean, the specified length was 110 blocks, whereas the Battleship is only, 250. So, I wonder how that will come into play. I think I'll be able to build a destroyer that has a lot more firepower. But these torpedoes are certainly an effective armament, assuming I can figure out the AI, which I can and will. But anyway, this ship is a frightening addition to ChatGPT's AI Armada. In the next episode of Project Prometheus, I will build my own destroyer to try to... well, unlike the Battleship, I'm not trying to just beat ChatGPT's destroyer. I'm actually trying to design a destroyer specifically to take on the Vanguard and other surface combatants in the AI Armada. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Project Prometheus. We're going to keep these coming on a regular schedule, and we're going to try to incorporate viewer feedback as much as possible. So keep telling us what you want to see. Keep telling us what I'm doing wrong, because I'm sure there's a lot. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.